This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so it is 6:02 and you are convened.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Do we need to say who's present or?
Sure, let's go ahead and say who's present.
Oh, we have somebody else coming on.
I believe that's Mr. Abing.
Oh, good.
Jim Nikes, I'm here.
Tiffany Hall present.
Julia Decker, staff, present, and Director Gail Henriksen is also present. And Don Abing, did you want to chime in and let us know that your audio is working?
Oh, hang on.
There you are.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So oh, we have one more person coming on.
We have Commissioner Webb.
Wow, got a lot of people
Julia,
Yes.
this is Don
Yes.
Abing. Yeah, my wife is not going to be actually joining in, but she's here and she's left me her notes that she wants to inject when the time is appropriate.
Very good.
So really kind of count her in if you want.
Okay, so she's sort of here by proxy.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we have no new minutes to approve.
No, and it was kind of funny because I got a couple of sets of minutes after the agenda went out, and I was going through one set and I thought about sending them to you, but then I didn't have time to go through the other set, so I will send them to you with your next agenda. You do have 2 more meetings after tonight.
Okay. All right. It looks like time for public comment and input. So do we want to hear from Mr. Abi?
Well,
Or
Mr. Pardon me, Mr. Abing is actually a member of the committee, so he'll be participating. And so I'm not sure if he wants to speak now or if he'd like to continue to just go through the meeting and go through the materials.
Well, there's only one issue that I wanted to address because it had bothered me from the first when I discovered it on the website or whichever. A couple meetings ago, I guess it would have been. I wasn't present for that one, but there was a concern, and I only see that this concern is with the Lewis and Clark Wallooskee Olney chapter, part of the planning process in Clatsop County. And that is that there was somebody had raised, or some people have raised concerns as to why the Chinook Nation would be opposed to low-head hydro projects in Clatsop. And I do have an answer for that, and it will be the same as I have delivered to the other planning areas, and that is that we, as a nation, do not agree with low-head hydro projects as a sustainable energy resource in Clatsop land, due to the fact that many of our small streams, due to climate change, are almost intermittent or carry a low volume of water during the beginning or end of spring and most of summer and beginning of fall. And so that and the serious nature of low-head projects that impact anadromous fish. Our nation is totally akin to and totally connected to the anadromous fish runs in Clatsop land. We do not view low-head hydro projects as environmentally friendly to sustain to keep the fish run sustainable. And on top of that, the low-head projects degrade the water quality and water temperature of the environment for resident fish that require areas for feeding and spawning. And so the movement up and downstream would be prohibited by low-head projects. And on top of that, the increased temperature behind each one of those is detrimental to the health of the fish. Anything that drops below 65 degrees increases above 65 degrees is going to be lethal for anadromous fish. And also, it changes the biomass. You have insect life and benthic creatures that depend on a constant water temperature to maintain their equilibrium and maintain their viability in the streams and continue the cycle of life that the Chinook Nation definitely depends upon. And furthermore, I want to put this one to rest and make no inference any way whatsoever, but we are categorically and undeniably against a hydro project that would inundate the falls, all the falls within Clatsop land, most especially Youngs River Falls. That is and always will be a cultural site that is revered by the Chinook, our Clatsop Chinook people. The various villages that visited that area and erected fish camps there to harvest fish that would sustain them through the various seasons. There are people that are still, visitors that come there and during low water periods still harvest and take away artifacts that belong to the Clatsop Chinook peoples, and that being fish spears, arrowheads, fish weights, and other items that I don't want to mention right now. But in any event, no low-head hydro projects or inundation of any of the principal falls. There's one also in northeast, which is on Nat Creek. Oh, actually, there's 5 there, but we would not want to see those impounded or stopped.
Okay, I think I got all that.
There will be a formal letter that will be coming from the council that will outline also pretty much, or put in detail more so the Clatsop, or excuse me, the Chinook Nation stand on low-head hydro projects.
Thank you.
And Tiffany, if I might offer a suggestion, since we're still, I guess, under public comment and input, if Commissioner Webb had anything that she'd like to say to the committee before we move into our body of work here.
Only to say Godspeed and stay at this. I realize that there are times when these issues are complicated, but this has been so far a wonderful process, so keep at it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abing, for your, I probably said your name incorrectly, I apologize, but thank you for your comments.
You pronounced my last name correct, Abing.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what Should we close public comment?
If you're ready, if there's no more.
Anyone? I think we're good to go forward.
Very good.
So are we going to start at there's a lot of stuff here. so if you want to just kind of guide us on what we're looking at, what we need to look at today. And I tried to read through it, but I did not get through all of it.
And that's okay. There's more time to read it. Also, as we were talking before the meeting started, one of the things I told people was not to get hung up on the minutiae and the wordsmithing, but to talk about concepts. And the more, I mean, we'd like to know what we should be including and what we should be leaving out, and for you to inject ideas that would inform the community plan better. So what we had been doing with the community plans was updating materials where we could. So we had highlighted areas in yellow that indicates where we had made revisions and where information had been added or corrected or deleted. And then there are highlighted areas in turquoise, which means that's stuff that we want to go back through as staff and see is it still true? Are there areas, what areas do we need to do more research in to be able to take a look at stuff and bring it up to date? So, and then of course the areas that are just in black and white text are areas that we haven't touched. And I do know it's like 30 pages of stuff. So really it was, if you were to pay more attention simply to what we've added and what we're deleting, that might be helpful. The other thing that we had wanted to do was maybe take a look and see if there's anything, because one thing Mr. Abing and I had a conversation a couple of weeks back regarding anything that he wanted to add regarding the Wallooskee area specifically. And I don't know if that was the comments that he just made, or if he had some other comments as well. But if we can, kind of include those ideas. And also that's something that can be emailed to me, Mr. Abing. I would be happy to accept an email for that matter, and then incorporate it in. But really it's just take a look. Does anybody see anything that just jumps at them?
Well, I noticed on there that there was lots of log storage, and so is that past industry that is no longer currently happening? Is that what those are in reference to?
The log storage stuff, and Jim is a good resource for this. I don't think that we have really any log storage going on any of these rivers anymore. I know that the Clatsop at one time had a bunch of submerged logs that they had some concerns about, kind of in that Olney area. But I don't really think that we have a whole lot of log storage anymore. Jim, am I wrong or right?
It's been outlawed. I mean, you cannot store logs in the rivers or waterways anymore. So that's why you don't see them anymore. They used to raft them on the boats and everything else. But the Clean Water Act has done away with that since for the last, it's about 15 years ago was the last of that went on. So no, you don't need that anymore.
Okay, but do we have any areas, because I know that there was that one area down in the Clatsop where there were submerged logs. Do we have areas where they are still kind of hanging out? Do we know?
Oh, there's probably some sinkers and stuff around all those. I mean, there are multiple areas where they tied up the log rafts. Most of the, all along the Youngs River and all the tributaries, and they had all the log dumps, out there by the fairgrounds. There was a big log dump there, and then the one at the bridge, the old Youngs Bay Bridge, and then the one on the other side of the old Youngs Bay Bridge. But there were quite a few of them, but they traditionally tied up log rafts all up and down all the tributaries.
So those are the ones that are in blue. So those are probably ones that you will be removing where it's talking about log storage. Is that?
Or adding some sort of historical context like what Jim just provided. In other words, that the Clean Water Act outlawed those log rafts and that there should not be log storage any longer. But you still might run into one someplace. So I'm thinking we'll probably update that then, so you would see change in that area. And so that's really helpful to have that. Thank you.
Okay. There was also one thing that I thought was interesting. It was there was a boat dredging of authorized channels in young rivers will probably be suggested in the future.
What page are you on?
It looks like it's page 8. I just thought this section was interesting.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because in there it says it talks about limited log transporting and fishing. So that was another place where it was talking about.
Well, of course, fishing is still really popular on these rivers and the bay.
Yes.
And Youngs Bay is home to the county's fisheries project, which is a select salmon project. So what I was thinking probably of doing there is maybe updating that with, and I think I did update in some other area about the Youngs Bay Fisheries Project. Oh yeah, no, it's down below in yellow.
It's in yellow.
Yeah.
May I add something to that page?
Of course.
The indigenous runs of coho salmon are virtually extinct, or in tributaries without hatcheries on them, they're extinct. That's the natural run. If anything is left, it's going to be hatchery.
Okay.
I do have a question that I thought was really interesting. So this paragraph that's right there in the middle where it says in year and you have it in yellow and a question mark. Not that I'm just wondering. It says dredging an entrance channel to the Lewis and Clark River was authorized, but not economically feasible. And then it says this project and maintenance dredge of the authorized channel of Youngs River will probably be suggested in the future.
That, right. Now I ran into that, and it had been written in the future tense. In other words, they were thinking that it was going to be authorized, but had been found to be not economically feasible. The language was very, very strange, and I couldn't figure out what year it was. So I figured I would look into that. And then it was said it was, but was not economically feasible. And then the project and maintenance dredging of the authorized channel in Youngs River will probably be suggested in the future. So I thought there's more going on here, and I'm going to need to talk to, I think, probably Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to see what that's about. And that whole paragraph is just, I don't know exactly what's going on there. In the original, it was very strange.
It's a little clunky.
Yeah, that shouldn't be Young's River. That should be Young's Bay.
Oh, it says into the Lewis and Clark River. It was talking about this mud and sand flats in Young's Bay above it, but then it says in the Lewis and Clark River, dredging at the entrance channel of the Lewis and Clark River was authorized. And then they switched to the Young's River. And I don't.
That's probably from way days gone by, along with the log rafts. They used to dredge the navigable waters for the tugs to come in and out. But like I say, there is no deep draft vessels that even go up there anymore. So
Right.
with all the environmental impacts and everything, nobody's going to ever do that. So that's kind of
So basically, the whole section regarding dredging, I need to look at and see if anybody does anything or if it's just completely something that does not happen anymore at all.
Yeah, I was just wondering why, I was just questioning if it says it's not feasible to dredge the Lewis and Clark, why would we look into doing the Young's
Right.
Bay River? So that was just my only question with that.
Yeah, and dredging is such a high impact, and I'm just trying to think if I've ever even seen in the last 30 years anybody doing that. Remember that when this was put together, it was in the 70s, and it was a long time ago. And environmental
Rules were
activities,
different.
the rules were different. The 70s saw a lot of change. The 80s saw a lot of change in environmental, the recognition of impacts of environmental activities like dredging. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a whole lot of that section come out.
Okay. Yeah, I was just that log transport just kind of got me in that next sentence down where it said commercial use of the bay near the future will probably be limited to log transport and fishing. So I don't know if like log transport will come out there since they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I think you're going to see fishing and recreational boating
Only.
and they were suggesting that it would increase, and I don't know where they were getting the idea that it would increase. Certainly, you know, it's pretty active right now. I don't know that it can be more active. I mean, they sell licenses and tags. I mean, it's maybe it's as busy as it's going to be. I don't know. So again, that would probably be a question for Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. So there's a reason that it's in blue.
Can we visit that a blue area just above there where it says salmon and trout are most important commercial fish species? I don't believe trout is, unless you specifically say steelhead trout, but the resident cutthroat trout, sea run cutthroat trout, that's not a commercial fish.
No, yeah, that would just be a recreational fish. I
But
presume
see,
these
you have,
days.
yeah, but you have commercial, the word commercial there.
Right.
in the
Again, this
sentence.
is the language from the 70s. So again, it would be checking with Fish and Wildlife to see what's true and what's not. And I don't know. I don't think that when they just said trout, they didn't call out any specific trout, and they did not say steelhead. So I don't know.
And that sentence where it says the mud and sand flats of Young's Bay are the most productive, that is a bit convoluted because the copepods and euphausids and all the other benthic creatures that are part of the life cycle that all the fish, prey and salmonids rely on is under attack by the unchecked Spartina that's being allowed to grow profusely in the Bay Area, up and down the Bay Area, I should say. Spartina displaces mudflats that the euphausids and the copepods depend on to graze on detritus, and it also, and what is trapped in those flats that are covered by Spartina, the fish can't navigate in there and harvest what's left or available of those areas. So that's total displacement of a food source, and that not only affects the fish, but it also affects bird life. The shorebirds and the visiting birds don't have access to the shorelands because the Spartina prevent that from happening. You can watch how the behavior of the birds are. They swim around and avoid all of that Spartina because it's not safe for them, one, and it's not productive for them.
So
It's an invasive species that, if left unchecked, it will just continue to degrade the Bay Area, degrade the food source, eliminate food source for salmonids and other benthic creatures, other prey fish like your candlefish, your help me out here, herring, smelt, stickleback. All of those prey fish are displaced and then further degraded, and a food source that's eliminated from the salmonids and sturgeon that require them for sustenance, for survival.
So then you would recommend that we would put in a section actually that addresses invasive species, and specifically Spartina and its effect on the Young's Bay.
Absolutely. I still don't know which agency does all of that control work. I know Washington has done an effective job in Willapa Bay and continues to do so. The state of Washington. I don't understand why it's allowed to go unchecked here in Oregon, especially in Clatsop land.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
On page 9, there's a boat construction facility, the K Manufacturing Incorporated. I like that. You're like, are they still doing those?
I'm under the impression that maybe they're not, and I was going to ask Jim if he knew anything. I thought that they were doing something else there now, but I don't know. I think K Manufacturing is still there. I just don't know if they're still doing boats. And there is a phone number on a website. I mean, I can call them and say, hi, how are you? What do you do there? And that may be what I end up doing. I certainly didn't have time to do it this week. But it is right there at Cook Slough. And this is kind of, if you know where Wireless Road is.
I looked it up before we got on.
Okay. So anyway, that was another one where I was going to look and ask if anybody had any better information than I did. I think Jim is off checking a football score.
How'd you know?
I just had a feeling. Are the Packers still losing?
No, it's tied up and they're just going to score again. So.
Oh, okay.
And what was
K Manufacturing Incorporated.
Does K Manufacturing still do boats out there, or are they something different now?
K Manufacturing never actually did the boats. It was J&H Boat Works next door. And I believe, yes, they still do it. They sold out, but I believe the other guy is still doing some limited building in the Hess building, which is the wooden structure next door.
Okay, so we might still have a boat works out there, is what you're saying.
Yes, there are ways, and it is a functional uh, boat building facility.
Okay. So I think maybe it's just a matter of contacting them then. But it's J&H Boat Works, thank you, because they did not come up on the internet. Just because
And
everybody says the internet is wonderful doesn't mean the internet is always right.
Dan Hess, he's actually the owner of the building, and he could probably tell anybody as much as anybody could.
Okay.
I mean, they built a boat in there probably 4 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're still doing it. They build small boats.
Okay. And so then again, there's a bunch of language in there about, let's see, extensive shoaling in this area has substantially reduced water depths in the area, and launching the vessels is extremely difficult. I mean, all of this is really rather technical, and I don't have a real good way of just checking it. So it would be, I guess, checking in with the boatworks and maybe DSL and seeing what they've got in the way of information on that specific section.
There'll never be any dredging anymore up rivers. It's just too cost prohibitive, and it's just there's way too much environmental language and everything else you gotta do. You'll never see, the only dredging you'll ever see anymore is on the main channels of the Columbia River. All these tributaries that you'll never see dredging.
Can we go to the blue area where it says bird use of river and marshes for feeding and nesting? It is moderate. I don't. We're not going to agree to moderate. The bay itself is heavily utilized by bird life for feeding. Nesting, on the other hand, for the shorebirds, again, goes back to the problem with Spartina displacing area that the shorebirds can safely use for nesting. So that part might be, reworked. But
Okay.
moderate for Young's Bay would not be appropriate. I mean, we have, I don't know whether it's totally or partly due to climate change, but we have a very important visitor, and that is the white pelican.
Yes.
And the white pelican is probably an attractive bird to the Euro-American, but it is a important spiritual bird for the Chinook Nation. And when it appears, it bodes good things. So I say that on the biological side, their appearance means that something good is still happening within the bay itself.
Oh, okay.
So let's be careful about that moderate word.
I agree with you on that. Moderate.
We can't. I don't want to diminish the importance of the bay itself, because it is heavily used by a variety of birds that use the aquatic environment. But again, we go back to that dark cloud of the Spartina that it directly affects the shore birds, the birds that utilize shore for nesting and feeding. That definitely is a major concern, problem. And again, we have a good population, or a growing population, of the bald eagle, and a returning population of the osprey, especially in the Tansy estuary. So I might have said too much there, but anyway, I'm just trying to be protective as best I can. with the knowledge that I have of the aviary life there.
Well, I saw white pelicans there last year, and they were charming. And I love brown pelicans too. So anyway, seeing the pelicans just was wonderful.
They were
And
they were there this year.
Mhm.
There is now, there was a pod of 20, and then just 2 days ago there were a two pair in the bay, swimming around the pilings, the old railroad pilings, across the road from Dairy Queen.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
where I saw
they're
probably,
still
yeah, I think I saw
still
50 or 60 birds there, not this year, but the previous year.
I just
yes.
saw some on Saturday out in the bay.
Hmm. Yeah, they're very pretty, and I love the brown pelicans too. I always go visit those as well. Um, so, but the upland shorebirds or the shorebirds are having their nesting site disrupted by the Spartina. So basically, that's going to be another ask from Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife to get me some biological information so that I can update this and make it more accurate for now.
Okay. Appreciate that.
I appreciate you pointing these things out to me. It helps.
I'm glad you're on here and that you have this information.
Hmm.
I have more.
Oh, good.
Um,
Oh, while we're at it, the spelling, your American spelling of Wallooskee should be deleted for the phonetic spelling of Wallooskee, the one that has the Wooskee.
If you would be so kind as to send me an email to tell me how that should be done. We are probably going to, I'm not quite sure how we'll handle it, if it's different than what we might be required by the National Geographic Society. But if you saw, I had an explanation that I picked up somewhere on page 1 or so of this document, and I don't know how accurate it is. I pulled it from some information I got from the Coast Weekend from the Daily Astorian from some years back, and I wanted to check with the group and see if anybody had any information about it. We may end up using something, well, let's please let me know exactly what the spelling ought to be,
Yeah.
so that we're using it
You,
correctly. But yeah, that's new. What Gail has just brought up, and so it shows you where I got it, 2018 from the Daily Astorian's Coast Weekend. And I don't know, I mean, this is somebody who was doing the research, so I don't know how accurate it is, but I wanted to have you guys take a look at it.
yes. I have the Chinook phonetic, and I have the Clatsop phonetic, and there's I don't even have, I wish I had the typewriter. I have to contact my chairman and see if he can type it out, but I don't even know if you can write it, the phonetic spelling of it by Clatsop. So it'll gonna have to be really close. The Wallooskee. There's actually a H sound in there, but anyway, I will work on that for you. Okay.
That would be, I would be very grateful. Thank you. And so I can update this information and see see how we can work all of this in.
I do know from my Finnish contacts, the Wallooskee is more Nordic sounding. I mean, it had a Nordic type settlement thing to it, so that's why that would be the incorrect.
Mhm.
That's from my Finnish contacts.
Okay. This is Commissioner Webb. Can I jump in here about place names? One of the things that we have to kind of pay attention to is the boy, and I'm going to probably get this wrong, but it's the Oregon Board of Geographic Names, which has been delegated the authority for place names. And so it might be worth checking in with them and finding out the extent to which we can, I don't mean play with, but you know, I think for those of us, there it is. My God, is that Gail back there
Of course,
coming up with all this good stuff? Of course.
of course.
That's it. We just, the reason I'm sensitive to this at the moment is that the board has just requested that they name an island in the river, Lark Island, that is a recently created island that is has been created by the Army Corps of Engineers with dredge spoils. And what's cool about it is that because dredge spoils are often very rich in flora, and that it has created a wonderful habitat for a very close to endangered bird called the lark. It's the streaked lark, excuse me,
Oh,
the western
sure.
streaked lark. And so I've been dealing with these OGNB folks. And as I say, they do have the legislative mandate for what place names are supposed to be. So it might be worth, with all the places in the county that we would love to reintroduce or codify place names according to Native American languages, that it might be worth in this comp plan process for us to kind of make a list of these and make certain that at the end of our comp plan process, we can make sure that these are blessed, that the use of Chinook and Clatsop verbiage, you know, place name issues, can be codified. I think that's well worth our doing, kind of another little bucket for you ladies to be dealing with.
Okay, so we can put, I see a couple of different things coming out of this thread of conversation. On the one hand, the idea that we should be looking into codifying and using native and indigenous place names and seeing about being able to adopt those. And then also obtaining the history of the place name in the Wallooskee area, especially.
I think we should be doing that all over the county, actually. I mean, throughout the comp plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. You made my heart sing.
Be careful, Don. Don't compliment me too much, or I'll ask you to come forward with some of the wonderful stories that I've heard you tell about Native American legends of the whale talking to the raven and other things that we all should have listened to a long time ago.
I think Coyote would give me permission to do so. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I just wanted, you know, when you spoke of that island, before Desdemona was named after the wreck Desdemona Sands, that the sands were principally called Chinook Sands or Chinookan Sands, or the Chinookan Sand. So that was for the wreck of the Desdemona.
And interestingly enough, I just read that someplace like in the last 2 weeks. I don't know if it was in some of the work that I've been doing for this comprehensive plan work or not, but I did actually just run into that the other day. And I did not know that previously.
Yep. there's a lot there that has been given to me to help clarify, especially the the village there at Point Adams and the village in Seaside Nooktoll, which was commonly called Indian Place in Seaside.
Well, we can work on the stuff that's outside the city limits and the urban growth boundaries, which is the purview of this committee. We won't be taking on the city of Warrenton or the city of Seaside. But what we can do is support through goals and policies what the county does and how we put that together. And maybe that will help elsewhere. What else? What else have you got for me this evening?
Page 7 of the 41, where it says the Columbia River estuary was divided into 5 planning areas, with each area of the planning areas being broken into sub areas. So what and where are the 5 areas and sub areas?
Well, the areas, and I'm not sure what page are we on? You said 7, and then I,
In
You're
7
on
to
the right page.
41.
yeah. So, oh, okay. The estuary was divided into 5 planning areas, with each planning areas being broken into sub areas. That was what I was checking on because I didn't have that information. And so I was thinking possibly to check with Crest. And I was wondering if it went with some of our estuary mapping and our shoreland mapping, and if those were maybe the areas and the sub areas. But I don't know. It's in blue.
Yeah. And it says because of numerous development proposals. What development proposals?
Well, back in the 70s and early 80s, I don't know, but probably there were all kinds of things that people were looking at doing. And of course, the waterfront is quite developed in Astoria. So that's one of the things that we are finding, I think probably in all of these old community plans, is that they make mention of something that was true at the time that is now lost because it's been several decades or 4 decades or more since it was true, and they don't because they don't specify what it was. It's just kind of lost to time. And I don't know what all those numerous development proposals were. I know that at one point somebody was looking at doing a destination resort. There were all kinds of things over the years, but we still see development proposals in Astoria. We really haven't had anything come to the county except mostly in the Youngs Bay and Clatskanie area. Proposals for things like estuary enhancement projects that Crest has been doing, for example. And that's not major development at all. That's enhancement.
Also, there's a blue one called the strongest effects on Youngs Bay's hydraulics have been exerted by the Skipanon Peninsula. And I visited this topic with Clatsop Plains and extensively argued for the Tansy area called, or the water there called Tansy Estuary, simply because it's been many years that the Skipanon Peninsulas, which were Army Corps of Engineers projects, had developed their channel and created a separation of water between the principal Youngs Bay and the Tansy area. And they don't drain the same, and they don't flood the same because of the peninsula. Two
And,
peninsulas, excuse me.
and what page are you looking at?
Jeepers, I don't know. Yeah, I wrote it down here on my notes. Maybe it's still page 7. But I can't. I don't. I know Gail took those notes from me.
Oh, it's on, it's at the very bottom of page 7 and the starting of page 8, I believe. Is that where? Maybe that's not the right one.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, the strongest effects. Oh, it's not blue. It's above the blue. Yeah.
Oh,
And,
okay.
yeah, and anyway, what uh, uh, the hydraulics have definitely changed. That's why I would not classify that area between the Skipanon Peninsulas and Tansy Point as Youngs Bay, but more specifically the Tansy Estuary, which is influenced by Tansy and Alder Creek, and I believe the sewage hookup there, a sewage lagoon in Warrington.
Okay, so that should be blue is
Yeah,
what it sounds like.
yeah. I don't know about the fills at Smith Point.
Yeah, this might be a DSL question. I mean, this is one of those things where, again, we're talking about some very, very specific things that people inserted into this comp plan, like in the mid 1970s. And so things have changed. I mean, a lot of things have changed. And nature itself has changed the way things flow through there too. So basically, I just want to get whatever is current now, and probably moving forward, provide citations so that people know where this information came from. Because this, for example, I don't know exactly what they were looking at when they made these remarks. But if it's blue now, then it knows that I know that I can go take a look at it.
Yeah. On page 10, there was a concern. This one's from Jody. And she said that if looking at Lewis and Clark Wallooskee planning area, where it definitely has a big chunk of Youngs Bay in there, the thing that says she's concerned where it says planned developments and subdivisions adjacent to shorelands shall be encouraged to provide open space along the shoreline. And she highlighted the word tsunami zone and doesn't understand why there would be an encouragement to have planned developments and subdivisions adjacent to the shorelands.
I don't think that it was an encouragement to have planned development and subdivision adjacent to the shoreland, but sometimes people do place developments and subdivisions close to shoreland areas. It's attractive and people want to be as close to, we were having this conversation in another meeting earlier today, people want to get as close to the shorelands and the ocean as they possibly can be without thinking about the hazards that are there. And so this policy actually encourages them to provide open space along the shoreland and not build right up to it or on it or develop it or find themselves in 15 or 20 years wanting to rip-wrap it or put some sort of retaining wall there. So the idea here was actually to move them, to encourage to move them away and provide open space so that people had access to the shoreland to walk or boat or kayak or whatever.
Oh,
So
okay. She might have read it differently, but
I
there
would
was
say that's
she had a
confusing.
concern. Yeah, and then another note here saying that, you know, if that was to happen, that would definitely affect insurance policies,
oh sure.
house insurance policies. I mean, that drive them up the friggin' wall, and nobody wants that.
It's a constant conversation in land use planning meetings of planners up and down the coast, and we had a coastal planners meeting today, and part of the discussion in the last, I would say the last third of the meeting revolved around people wanting to get as close as they can to the ocean, and it was specifically the ocean we were talking about today, wanting to get as close as they can to the ocean and not taking into account the devastation that
Natural hazard.
a high erosion winter can bring. We had looked at some photographs that were just hair raising just down in Lincoln County, for example, at Glen Eden Beach. And so anyway,
Yeah.
Excuse me, Julia.
yes.
I'm going to have to buzz out to a 7 o'clock meeting.
Oh,
But I just wanted to thank you all again for being here and for your great wisdom and experience. I'm sorry we lost Jim to the football game, but I'll have to deal with him later about that.
What are you talking about? I'm here listening to this whole thing.
oh, he is here.
All right. Well, you know, I'm
I
used to
just
you picking up once in a
go
while.
in the other room once in a while and look at it. Come on.
Okay. Anyway, thank you all so much. See you next time.
Thank you,
Bye,
Commissioner.
Pam.
And
Well,
Gail
that's-
just brought up a slide that shows some of what we were talking about today. And one of the ones is that one in the upper right-hand corner. They actually have some sort of beamwork, steel beamwork holding up part of that house. I mean, that just, and you see the, anyway, those would be the things that we were talking about. So something to do with cleaning up. So in other words, the policy needs to be cleaned up a little bit so it's clearer that it isn't that we're encouraging people to build close to the shorelands, but that we are encouraging them, if they have property, to leave the shoreland area open as open space. You would like to see that be clearer in that policy, is that correct?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. We can do that.
There's there's that log storage again.
Yes. Won't be there for long though. So what else have you got for me? And remember that you do not have to make it through this entire thing tonight. You do not have to. You've got 2 more meetings after this, and I can make changes and bring them and put things together, but we can pick up where we can pick up next time where you left off tonight if we don't go all the way through, and that's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What time are we supposed to adjourn? How long are we doing this for?
I had you going until about 7:30.
Okay.
A lot of the committees go until like 8 or to yeah, I see. I think I had you going until 7:30, but you could go later than that.
Okay.
You don't have to go way late because I still have to go home tonight, but
I don't want to keep you away from your home.
and I appreciate that. But still, we have time.
I'm looking at page 15. I don't know about this, but the absence of cross dikes in many areas is a matter of concern. I don't know much about the dike system, except for I know that there are some.
You want to
Jim,
know
are you
about
there?
cross dikes? Yeah.
Yeah,
Cross-
talk to us
Teach
about
me,
cross dikes.
please.
Cross dikes are usually, you have your main dikes that dike the river, and your cross dikes usually are when you have a slough or something, and you will cross between the main dike and the upland, and usually a lot of times in between separate pieces of property, depending on what kind of creeks or sloughs or whatever are affected by tide gates and stuff. But usually they're a lateral to the main dikes. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to envision it.
So you got the river, you got rivers where obviously dikes are usually along the shorelines of the rivers. Okay. And then you've got sloughs that come into the rivers and stuff. So they'll make a dike that goes from the main edge of the river and go up to the upland, like out Young's River, Binder Slough, that's a cross dike.
Yes, okay.
I'm trying to think of some other ones.
No, I get it now. I understand. So let me ask you this then. This area that I've got in blue, it says the absence of cross dikes in many areas is also a matter of some concern. While breaking a key dike is a remote possibility, well, I don't know if that's true. Such an occurrence in the Miles Crossing area could result in flooding of a large area of land. That's true. With portions developed for residential, commercial, and industrial use. I'm thinking that that whole section regarding dikes needs to be updated.
Well, again, along with dredging, it's a very, as we know, the Division of State Lands, it's so convoluted and so complex with environmental studies and everything else to do, because most and almost all dikes are wetland, so they're never going to be done. I mean, it's a good idea in theory to keep floodwaters at bay, but it's not going to happen in this day and age. So, I mean, language could be something along the lines of approvals of the Division of State Lands, Corps of Engineers, environmental studies, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's not just cut and dry like they're talking about here.
Right. So basically, this is a section to update with the Oregon Department of State Lands.
Correct.
Okay.
And Dan will say no.
Okay, so that is page 15. Okay, yeah, I was concerned about that. Okay, so Department of State Lands can give me some updated ideas about how to talk about Clatsop County's dikes and I don't really know what they're gonna what's gonna end up being there, but you will have language in yellow at some point here in the next month or two.
And your maintenance of existing dikes can be done fairly easy and reasonable, but
Mm-hmm.
creating new dikes is, I mean, it's even difficult to remove dikes for wetlands mitigations and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm involved in one of those, and it's not just you pull the dike out. There's quite a bit of language and stuff you got to go through.
Oh, yeah, we did this up on Highway 202 for some folks who were doing a restoration project, and it involved dike removal, clear out toward the wildlife, not the wildlife refuge, the wildlife rehabilitation center, and it was a large conditional use project.
Yep. Nothing simple when it comes to you guys.
Thank you.
That's government.
Thank you. And we will put a note in there that, okay, update with DSL, and Gail has written, Dan will say no. Okay, got it.
Very good.
Okay, what else you got?
That's it. That's for me.
Okay.
Tiffany
can carry on.
I'm glad that you both are here, Jim and Mr. Abing. So this housing part, right, a little bit lower. Well, what's the land with water 6 tables 6 feet less below the surface during wet season? Are you just going to update that with whatever's current?
Yeah, I'd like a new definition of what high groundwater is, and I don't know if that's accurate or not, but once again, I'll check with a geologist or, DSL or somebody, but I thought that high ground 6 feet or less. I don't know.
It's your new blue blob. Just say blue blob.
Blue blob. Well, it's not new. I had it blue before because I just want a new definition. What is an area of high groundwater? Because that's being thrown in there as the definition, and I don't know if that's still accurate.
I think he's referring to the new maps that have the blue blobs, the flood maps.
Oh, you're right.
State wetlands inventory of high groundwater.
Yeah. Yes.
Which DSL's interpretation of it is anything below 2 feet. So,
Yeah.
So it's, sure.
Depending on what plant life grows.
Yeah. Well, the water table's got to be 2 feet. Then the plant life comes in after that.
And then how about the housing section? Oh, I'm sorry, Jim, did I interrupt you?
No, I'm just babbling. No,
I don't mean to cut you off.
no, don't worry about it.
Okay, the housing section. It said, I mean, all of this, and I am probably looking at, I think I put some language down here where I'm saying that we need to add the housing needs analysis and census information and the housing strategies report and goal 10 stuff. And I think goal 10 stuff is going to inform, which is housing. It is actually the housing goal. I think that's going to inform all of this section. So I guess you can look at that, look at the part that's there now. That is historically where we were, as it says, back in 1970, and then they had a projection for the year 2000 of a population of 3,801 in the planning area. I have no idea what it was in 2000. Anyway, all of that is just, I mean, I'm just going to have to go look at census blocks and tracts and take a look at the housing
Were their
study.
predictions correct?
I don't know.
That would be interesting.
The area grew very, very slowly during the 70s, then the 80s, and even into the 90s. It's really been in the last 20 years that it's picked up a little bit, but it's still not, it says population increase has been conservative, 0.6% per year. I can remember back in like the late 90s, it had kind of bumped up to like 0.9% per year, and I don't know where it is now, but that's not huge growth.
Mm-mm.
But now go try and find a house.
That's only because everyone's an Airbnb or a summer home for somebody else.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah.
What else you got? Do you like my map of the
So
sanitary district down there?
yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now, and I'm like, is that in?
I did
That
that
is
the other
Miles
day.
Crossing.
That is Miles Crossing, and that is off the county's GIS. And I just basically thought that it would be nice to have a picture of it so people can see, first of all, how strangely shaped it is. So the way that it works, it's along Highway 101 business, and you can see that it stretches from the Old Bay Bridge there on the north, and it goes out wireless a little ways, and it's just on the north side of the road. The south side of wireless down there is actually exclusive farm use, which precludes having the sanitary district in it. So it's basically excluded from the sanitary district specifically. And then you can see it comes down toward the intersection, and then it goes out not very far out Youngs River and a little ways out Lewis and Clark, and then down into Jeffers Garden. And then there's some on the other side of the road, but that was the extent of it, and that was done in 2002 or 3. I think I gave you some history on it over there in the yellow. But anyway, it was an interesting couple of years working on that.
Well, you
So
were
where is
involved,
the? Go ahead.
you were involved in that giant spot zone?
No,
How did
I
you manage
was
doing that?
I was not involved in it. I was on the peripheral as a support person, handling meetings and things like that. The person who worked on it was the senior planner who was here at the time. I was not a planner at the time. I was just sort of a witness.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't do it.
A prime example of something else that you cannot do that the county did, along with split zones.
Well,
Anyway,
that and the split zones. I do not have the zoning there because I just wanted to show the sanitary district, and maybe it would be an interesting thing to also have another image that has the zoning on it so that you can see what Jim is referring to with all these little pockets of different types of commercial and rural community residential and light industrial. We're not actually supposed to be split zoned and pocket zoned and creating these isolated pockets. But one of the things that they did was, because of the way Miles Crossing developed in the 50s and 60s and prior to the zoning ordinance, the way that it developed, there are things there that you would not be able to put there today. For example, there is an auto wrecking yard, which is in the floodplain. You wouldn't see anybody making that application today successfully, but it's there as a continuing non-conforming legal use, for example. So what they did when they did the rural community zoning was legalize the uses that were there at the time, and that's how we ended up with this rather strange, and Gail's bringing it up, that's how we ended up with that rather strange zoning. So the orange is rural community residential. You can see some dark blue that's sort of pockets down there. That's marine industrial. That's old shipyard. The red is rural community commercial. Then we have some lighter blue, which is rural community light industrial. And all of this is sort of encased with EFU all around it, except to the south where we have AF, which is agriculture forestry. So the EFU is exclusive farm use and the AF is agriculture forestry. So those are these large 80-acre minimum lot size resource zones. The EFU, typically the soils are excellent. They're, you know, and yet here we have this sort of Swiss cheese thing with the zoning around Miles Crossing and Jeffers Garden. But that's how it got to be there. That's the way it developed, and that's the new Youngs Bay Bridge went in 62, 63, somewhere in there. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off a little bit, but it went in, I believe, in the 60s. And when that happened, Miles Crossing stopped being the major thoroughfare between Astoria and Warrenton. Jim, do I have that?
That's correct. You're doing good. Go to the north a little bit, Gail. That's the one I really like. There you go. See the green EFU and then the orange things out there? You can't do that without being connected to each other, but some person did it. Right there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So basically what they did, and part of the reason for it was to try and ram through as quickly as possible that sewer district, which really needed a lot of assistance, because it was a very bad situation with all the septic failing out there. So it is an imperfect solution. We do have spot zoning. We're not really supposed to, but they legalized what was going on at the time. So there it is.
Fix it along with the split zones. Draw the line.
Draw the line. He just wants us to use a Sharpie.
That's all you need. I've seen it done before. Hey, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, I should probably include the zoning map as well to go with the sewer district depiction. So anyway, what else, folks? What else?
Talking about the dikes again on page 17. There are 4 active dike districts, 2 inactive districts, and they're in serious state of disrepair. Is that still?
I don't know exactly how many active diking districts we have, and I don't know how many are inactive, and I don't know which ones are in disrepair or if all of them are. And so I need more information, and it's probably going to come to in part going up into the assessment and taxation department, because they have contact information for all the diking districts, and just basically checking in with everybody.
There's 2 in Jeffers Gardens. There is 1 in Youngs River. There is 1 on the other side of the bridge, right at the intersection there going to the airport. And those are all separate diking districts. And the ones in Jeffers Gardens are in fairly good shape because 4 or 5 years ago, Big River put a whole bunch of fill on top of the dikes at John Dean's, and they raised it all up and improved that all. And that's in pretty good shape. But the one over by where we were talking about the shipyard, the old shipyard there by Costco's, it's not in such good shape. That's all I know.
It's still more than I know. And so part of it too has to do, of course, with these diking districts. If they're breached during a flood, part of it has to do with flood insurance. And so part of this is a FEMA question, is what do they consider the dike conditions to be?
FEMA has standards for the dikes which can never be feasibly made. So that's why you have all the flood insurance behind the thing. You can actually repair the dikes. I think it's to 15 feet, but it's got to have a massive basis, and there's all sorts of different technology things involved. But but they, you can't, it's almost impossible to achieve for a small diking district. So therefore, that's why there's the flood insurance and stuff. If you could get them to standard, you could get rid of the flood insurance, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, but I just don't see that happening, and so I think we're going to probably see that remain in the flood zone AE for the foreseeable future. So.
Warrenton tried to achieve it, and they can't even achieve it.
What else? What else you got? If you look in the paragraph below, you can see that I have highlighted that I need to check and see how many sewer connections we've got, and water district connections, and number of homes. So that's all stuff to be updated. I did put in some new information regarding the Astoria School District and the Lewis and Clark and Olney schools. I did a little research on those. The only school, I forgot that the only school continued to operate as long as 2002 before it closed permanently. So when I moved here, that was a K through 8.
Right, they had their own district, and then they got incorporated into Astoria, and then they closed it down and sold it to the church.
Yep, exactly. What else did I do here? Oh, under transportation, y'all tell me what you think about this. So it's got that blue section there. It says, although narrow and winding, none of these roads are at capacity. So it's talking about Highway 202, Youngs River Road, Lewis and Clark Road, and Fort Clatsop Road. So it's saying none of these roads are at capacity. They are typical of local roads in the county with little or no seasonal variation in usage. And so I added some information regarding Highway 202, which has a lot of heavy truck traffic on it and has received some criticism from various folks, including county commissioners, about its condition. But what do we think about little or no seasonal variation in usage?
Well, 202 in the summertime definitely has more traffic on it, especially on the weekends than it does in the winter. But it's, you know, there isn't that much traffic on it. And our roads, the county roads, they're in excellent condition, and they don't vary much. They're, you know, just peak hour stuff. So
Okay.
that's pretty accurate, I think.
Okay, so it's not really a seasonal variation, it's more just the typical variation that we would have around here.
Correct.
Okay. Would you take a look at the stuff that I added below, which has to do, let's see, I did some stuff regarding the Port of Astoria, and then I took out some stuff that was old about the Port of Astoria. So if anybody sees anything there that I came up with that was wrong, please let me know.
Well, the Port of Astoria is currently going through development right now, isn't it?
They have just updated their plan. They have a new strategic business plan, and I've talked to the port commissioners about it and pulled some information out of their strategic plan. That's what you see here. But they are a very busy group of people.
Oh, they used to have jets here?
The history of the Port of Astoria Airport, and I mean, we still have Coast Guard jets. We have had off and on commercial air service, and for a long time they kept trying to bring commercial air service in, and we had these smaller commuter flights, and it would work for a while, and then the carrier would just find it not feasible and would go out. I think we went through like 3 or 4 different carriers, commercial, and it was always like small planes, and so they had a hub, you know, like in the Portland area, and then they would serve everything just locally around it. So Astoria was on there, and you know, down toward, you know, Port of Tillamook and places like that. The Coast Guards, I mean, you can have jets take off from here, and the Coast Guard still does have jets. And right after 9/11, we had aircraft here that we had extraordinary aircraft here using this airport. There were Harrier jets taking off from that airport.
There's that recreational part about the bikes on Lewis and Clark Road.
Yeah. Yeah, where are you now?
The bottom of that page.
Oh, okay. Recreation.
For
Yeah.
the Trans-American Bikeway.
Yeah, I'm going to have to update all of that because I don't know exactly what the correct names of everything are. And I didn't have time to do it before this went out, so I highlighted it in blue. More stuff to go research. But yeah, we had that. And also the hiking trail that the Boy Scouts used.
Is that for the place that they have out on Cullowhee Lake for the camp?
No.
Is it that part?
No, I don't. No, it would be like the Fort to Sea Trail.
That's
Okay.
what I was thinking, is that needs to be updated to be about the Fort to Sea Trail now.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm thinking that goes.
Julia?
Yes.
Yeah, I know I spoke to Gail about, I think this, but I may not have. I can't recall. But I know you brought up that Boy Scout thing there at Cullowhee Lake. If the Boy Scouts ever decide to abandon that, would it just revert back to the county, and then Clatsop Chinook would be able to reacquire what was Headman Cullowhee's fish camp?
I don't know what would happen beyond if the Boy Scouts abandoned their lease, which is like basically a 100-year lease or something like that, 99 years or something. But if they abandon it, then the county is the underlying owner. What happens after that, I could not speak to.
Thank you.
So I took out some stuff, and I have places where there were old maps that we're going to try and have updated by the county's GIS department to make them new and pretty. And so anyway, there's some places where the language in the code actually references the maps. So that's why you see like map 2 insert, map 3 insert. It tells you which map is going where. So anyway, we're going to try and get those updated. And Gail just reminded me that time check wise, we're at 7:30. So you probably want to decide how much longer you want to go and what you want to leave for next time. And if you do want to keep going tonight, and also you would have one more opportunity for public comment on your agenda. I think we already have your next meeting planned. So your meeting date
Okay.
is going to be November. It's the week before Thanksgiving. So is that the 16th or the 18th? I can't
I
remember. I
believe
don't have
it's
it in
the
front of me.
18th.
I think it's the 18th.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're already planned for your next meeting. So
Okay.
it's just a matter of how much longer you'd like to go this evening.
I think we've gotten through pretty much all of it, right? Of this part.
You're about halfway.
Let's see. I'm okay going a little bit longer. I don't know how the others feel.
Jim, how's your football game?
That's there. We're still winning.
So you're about, I think you're about halfway. So what would you like to do?
I'm okay going forward but if everybody else is done, then I'm fine with that too.
Sure. I'd like to
How
go
about
watch a
you?
little bit of the game.
Let's
They
let
would,
Gail
they would like to go home.
in. Yeah. You guys need to go home.
Mr. Abing,
Okay.
do you have a preference?
No, I'll go ahead and save mine for later.
Okay, you'll be back next month then?
Oh gosh, yes. You know
All right.
that.
Well, I'm just making sure because also you've promised to send me some things via email too.
Yes, I will.
All right, very good. So
Thank you.
if you guys want to call it a wrap for tonight, that's fine. Did you want, would the chair like to see if there's any more public comment?
Any other public comments before we adjourn? I would say that's a no.
Okay.
I was going to say something, but no.
Oh, go ahead then.
No. No.
Did I speak too soon, Jim?
No.
Okay. And well,
I just rambled.
okay. Well, we'll let you guys go home and Jim get back to his game.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So if you're adjourning now at 7:34, and staff appreciates everything you guys have done tonight because you really are helping a lot. I don't know if you realize all the questions that I have and all of the things that I need to do, but you've helped me figure out where to go look for a lot of this, and I do appreciate it.
I really appreciate Jim and Mr. being here.
Yes.
Thank you. You can call me Don.
Don.
All right. So are you adjourned?
We are adjourned. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you
Thank
very much.